Welcome to Marketing Made Simple TV. My name is Jeff Ogden, the creator and host of the show, and we're excited to bring you another great guest. And there's also one thing I want to tell you about this show, is it's actually a sponsored show. And not only is he the guest on the show, but InsideView is the sponsor of the show. So let's meet Umberto. The theme of this show is the importance of delivering the right message to the right person at the right time, which is so important in sales today. Umberto is the founder and CEO of InsideView, which is a sales 2.0 leader that brings intelligence gained from social media, traditional editorial sources, etc., to the enterprise to increase sales productivity and velocity. And what we're going to talk about today are things like, what is prospect intelligence and why do I need it? Why should marketers care about prospect intelligence? And lastly, how is intelligence the key to strategic upsells and cross-sells? Hi, Umberto.
Morning, how are you?
Good. Welcome to the show. We're glad to have you on the show. And one thing I want to mention to all the viewers on the show is on the upper right is we have an offer from InsideView, which you are kind enough to share with us. This white paper done by you and marketing profs called Intelligent Life, Exploring the Impact of Sales Intelligence on Your Capability and Performance. So at any time during the show, they can just click the link and download that great white paper. So anyway, I want to again welcome you to the show, Umberto.
Thank you, and that white paper is a great read, so I highly recommend it.
Good, good, good. Before we start, I want to just kind of talk about the lay of the land and just how tough it is in sales. This quote, Umberto, came from the Corporate Executive Board, and I thought it was interesting because they talk about we're seeing the death of the solution selling era. The era of discovering customer needs is past, and the era of teaching customer needs is upon us. If the customer has already assessed their needs, you're too late. And that's the fatal flaw in the sales approach that's defined the solution selling era. But I think that quote really shows how tough it is for salespeople out there. The balance of power has completely shifted. Buyers tend to know more than salespeople, and I think that has really driven the need for the kind of solutions that companies like InsideView provide. So let's start off by, I know you talk about things like customer and prospect intelligence. What is customer and prospect intelligence?
Well, let me answer by tying it back to your question and your point. So it is tough out there, and it's tough in two ways. One way is what you discussed, which is the buyer today has so much more at their fingertips on the web. Their expectation of the level of knowledge that somebody on the vendor side is going to have before engaging has risen dramatically. And so that really raises the bar on people who are customer-facing to be much more relevant than they've ever been before. The customer feels, I've done all this homework, I know so much about you and your company, I expect you to know more about me, and not go in the traditional discovery conversation where you take half hour of my life to ask me all the questions to learn things that you should already know, because those things are publicly available about me and my company. So that's the first part of prospect intelligence, is really there's so much information today about me, you, our businesses. Really any business person has a ton of information today available through social media, through online news, through their website, through blogs, that it's no longer excusable for a salesperson or a customer-facing person not to be ready going into a conversation. But recent studies show that 65% of salespeople are not ready at all when they go into a conversation. So there's a big disconnect between what the buyer is expecting, a knowledgeable, educated salesperson who's going to be relevant, and what salespeople are still doing today, which is getting on the phone and really trying to strike up a conversation. And that's not working. And it's not working, and it's driving the buyer away. So the other challenge is that 92% of buyers, so 92, 9 out of 10, no longer respond to any cold call or cold email. So not only it's become challenging for the seller to make sure they're prepared, it's also become challenging for the seller to be able to reach a buyer. If all they do all day is cold calling, they're reaching 8% of the market. That is not a recipe for success. So prospect intelligence is about making it easy for customer-facing employees, salespeople, to have the information at their fingertips, which helps them in two ways. One of them is allows it to be more relevant because they're more knowledgeable, more informed. They have something to tell the person on the phone that's about them. It's about their business, how they're going to make them better. And the second one is by doing their homework, they are able to get to the 92% of the people who are normally not responsive to generic messages that the majority of salespeople and marketing organizations still use today.
That's interesting. That 92% number is scary. The fact that so many people just reject these cold contacts. And I think just the bottom line is for salespeople today, the barrier of entry is just way up. You've got to know a lot more about your prospects. So I think there's a huge amount of value in the kind of solutions that InsideView provides for that. Let's talk about this. Obviously, salespeople need it to cold call. What about marketers? What is the impact of this kind of knowledge to marketers?
So if you ask marketers what their biggest pain points are these days, it's what they would call, when it comes to the area of building revenue, it's really around lead quality. And so what is lead quality? And what is low lead quality? Low lead quality are leads that marketing spends a lot of money and a lot of time generating that never make it anywhere. So the question is, why do they not ever make it anywhere? Because they're oftentimes handed to a sales process. They still use traditional methods to execute on those leads. Furthermore, state-of-the-art oftentimes for a lead that gets handed to a salesperson is an email address, a phone number, a title, and a name of a person. That is not exactly a rich set of insight to be able to use to have a relevant conversation with this person. So this really matters to marketers as well, because if they cannot help the sales organization, the people who are going to have the conversations, if the market cannot help their peers with relevant insights, things that the seller can discuss on the phone, they're going to create an engaging, relevant conversation, the reality of 9 leads out of 10 never make it to even the opportunity stage, never mind the win, will continue. And so these seem like tons of challenges, but the good news is there's opportunity as well. There's opportunity because that 92% of buyers that are non-responsive, if you can get to them, you have now already elevated yourself to being top percentile. So the likelihood of you having an edge in your competition is very high. So the bad news is people are still using ineffective methods. The good news is if you use a more effective method, your odds of success skyrocket. And we've seen that. There have been lots of studies that show that people who can use insights and relationships to pursue sales cycles have much higher win rates. And so the other good news is the information is now out there like never before to be relevant. And what I mean by that is, you know, you and I used to go visit customers and go in their office and shake their hand and talk about football and look at the pictures on their desk to get a feel for the person. But today you can't really do that because traveling is too time consuming, too expensive. But the good news is that you and I today are very visible on the web. You can learn a lot about me, my interests, even my personal life just by looking at my Twitter account, my Facebook page, my blog, what I'm talking about. So the good news is there is information out there for salespeople to be able to leverage to have those relevant conversations. The other good news is that social networks now map how relationships can help salespeople have a more higher likelihood of getting a response. So one of the things we help our customers do is leverage their corporate social network, all the relationships that exist within the company, with their executives, with their board, with their customers, to help facilitate the introductions that happen out there in the world. And an introduction, a relationship increases the odds of a lead becoming an opportunity, a deal happening, by something like a factor of 5. So those are the two things that we help our customers do. One of them is easily, quickly, without work from the salesperson, identify relevant nuggets of information that allow the salesperson to have a more relevant conversation. 2 is map relationships. So any sales conversation, any prospecting effort, any lead generation effort can leverage the power of all your employees and all their relationships as they're mapped into social networks. So those are 2 very powerful tools that really were not available to sales organizations just a few years ago. And they can really, with the right direction from a marketing organization, they can really be extremely powerful in creating a competitive advantage for companies. And we've seen that we now have over 1,000 companies, 1,000 enterprises use our technology to power that, and we've seen them be very, very successful. We're seeing them improve conversion rates all the way down the funnel, from initial lead to opportunity to win. And then also on the customer side, increasing cross-sell and upsell.
Interesting. Now, one of the things you said is you can research people online. You can read your blog. You can follow you on social networks. And one of the challenges, I think, information is all over the place. How can salespeople pull that together in a useful form so they can make...
It's a great question. And frankly, the ability of an individual to manually process all this information is just no longer there. There's just too much of it. And I think the last thing you want to do is to take your highly valuable customer-facing people and ask them to be researchers, to be manual aggregators. So that's where technology has to step in. The analogy I like to use is back in the 80s in the financial markets, it got to the point where the amount of stock information and bond information reached such a volume that traders that used to read ticker tape could no longer keep pace with the amount of insight that was out there and no longer make the right trading decisions. And Bloomberg came in with some technology, what's called the Bloomberg Terminal, and still is called the Bloomberg Terminal 25 years later, and really helped traders be much more effective because technology did a lot of the heavy lifting, assembling all the information, analyzing it, and bringing to each trader just what was relevant for them. The same thing needs to happen, and it's happening on the sales side. Each salesperson, at the end of the day, only cares about a very small subset of information. They're usually territory-based or account-based, named account-based. So they don't care about what's happening in the world. They care about what's happening in a finite number of companies. And then within those companies, they only care about certain titles, certain relationships. So now you're making the world even smaller. And furthermore, depending on what the salesperson sells, it might be a solution that really is valuable right after an acquisition. It might be a solution that's really valuable when a company is doing a product launch. Or it might be a solution that's really valuable when a new CFO comes into the company. So you can then really personalize and filter the information dramatically using technology. And that's what we do for our customers. We help them really take this huge cloud of information that can easily overwhelm an individual if they're trying to do this by hand. I know I've tried to do it by hand, and before I know it, I have 12 tabs open in my browser. That's not productivity. And we use technology to filter it, make it really relevant. And then the last critical piece is this information has to be part of the standard workflow. If you ask people to go outside of the workflow, to go do research and do information and go on Facebook to look me up, what's going to happen is they're going to go on Facebook to look at my personal profile, and all of a sudden they're going to start doing pictures of their friends and doing a little game. That's what those social networks are built to do. They're built to distract. So by bringing instead all this information pre-analyzed in the workflow, like a CRM application or a Salesforce automation application, then that really makes it productive. So for us, the key is technology has to help assemble the information. Technology has to analyze it and make it relevant. Technology has to personalize the information to each individual user. And technology needs to inject this information in the standard workflow. So when you're qualifying a lead, you have the right information. When you're pursuing a sales cycle, you have the right information. When you're going to a customer for a renewal, you have the right information.
Interesting. And I want to remind everyone that in the top right of the screen, there's a button to download this new white paper entitled Intelligent Life, Exploring the Impact of Sales Intelligence on Your Capability and Performance. So click the button and download it. Now, there's one other question I want to ask, and I've spent many years in sales, Umberto, and there always used to be the thing, okay, if I'm going to hire a salesperson, I want somebody who knows the industry and has a great Rolodex, right? And is really good, he's a really good talker. Well, those skills aren't important anymore, are they? It's less important to hire that resume than actually to arm salespeople and provide them with tools like your company produces to make salespeople
Yeah, happy to. I mean, we all know that our world is changing more rapidly than it's ever been. So my Rolodex from 3 years ago is, if it stayed static, it would no longer be very useful today. And my industry knowledge from 3 years ago, if it was held static, it would also not be very useful today, because industries change and people change jobs all the time. So I do think it's still useful to have salespeople who are knowledgeable about the industry and know relationships. But the question is, how do you empower them to efficiently stay on top of the industry and efficiently leverage their relationships? And then how do you take the relationship piece and turbocharge it by taking John's relationships, adding them to Jane's relationships, and all of a sudden you have a relationship ability that spans your whole employee base. The old days of the lone hunter that just had their own Rolodex and went off and was successful or failed in their own right, I think those are mostly behind us. I think the powerful companies are the one who can add the knowledge of the employees in a collaborative, scalable fashion, the relationship with the employees in a collaborative, scalable fashion, workflow and processes to build an engine that goes beyond any one individual. It's an engine that's an IP for the company, and it's an engine, it's a revenue generation engine that unites marketing and sales and uses technology and insights to be able to deal with a new reality. And the new reality is 92% of prospects don't take phone calls or emails and don't respond to them if there's no introduction and if there's no tailoring of that message. And that's an important reality to face. And the other reality, which we started at the beginning of this webcast, was around the need to come to the conversation informed. So you're not taking up customer and prospect time, but you're bringing something to the conversation. So those two things, if done right, is really what's going to define the new leaders in the new industry. And frankly, the companies and the people that are going to continue to follow the old path of, lone wolf, discovery conversations, cold calls, eventually are going to get left behind and replaced by companies and people that are embracing these new approaches.
Good. I especially like your idea that if you just go the extra mile and you invest in this technology and you start harnessing these things, you get a big leg up on your competitors, and I think that's absolutely true. So, Umberto, tell me, where can people learn more about you, InsideView, the company, and obviously they can download your great white paper with that button.
I started the company 7 years ago with a point of view that insights were going to be really dramatically important in making customer-facing employees more effective. And really focused on the sales organization initially. How can we make it easy for salespeople to use these insights, compelling business events, company information, executive information to increase their win rates? And then over time, we've expanded those capabilities by making them integrated into workflow and making them kind of out of the box, native into all the major Salesforce automation applications. And now we're starting to really look at how can we bring these insights to help people who are not your traditional hunters, but are really what people would call the farmers, the account managers, the relationship managers, because their world is different from salespeople. Salespeople tend to think about 5 to 10 companies at any given time, the hot ones, where if you're in the account management and relationship management business, you're oftentimes managing many more relationships than that. You might be managing 10 customer, 50 customer, 100, 200 customer relationships. And insights are really critical there. You know, my view is that you can no longer sell to a customer and then forget about them. The selling to a customer is just the beginning of what's hopefully a long relationship, a recurring revenue relationship, where you continue to do more for that customer and expand the relationship over time. So what we're working on now is how do we empower people whose job is to expand relationships, to nurture relationships, to strengthen the customer bond with the same type of insights, so they can be in touch with their customers and prospects, so they can be automatically notified when there's an opportunity or a threat. And an opportunity might be, one of my customers just acquired another company. I can go sell them more of what I do. An opportunity might be, one of my customers just announced a partnership that we think we can really make stronger. A threat might be, one of my customers has hired a CFO, and normally when CFOs come into a company, they look where to cut costs. And I want to make sure that my solution is not going to be on the chopping block. Or another threat is, there is a new executive at the company who comes from one of my competitors. That's going to be a threat for me. Unfortunately, for customer managers and relationship managers, just the quantity of customers that they have to manage, again, makes it impossible for them to do this type of watching on a manual basis. So we're bringing technology to allow them to scalably say, watch these 100 customers for me and automatically ping me anytime one of these opportunity arises, so I can go do some cross-sell and upsell, or ping me when there's a threat, so I can go make sure that I proactively go into save mode in an account or relationship building in an account. Or if neither one of those is happening, but something meaningful happened with my buyer or my customer, let me just give them a ping to stay in touch with them and continue to build the relationship and let them know that I care about their business and I'm watching what's going on in their business. So that's really now no longer empowering quote-unquote salespeople, but really people who are in the job of nurturing customer relationships. And for many companies like us, customers actually bring more revenue than new sales prospects. So being able to effectively manage a customer relationships are really critical. And then if you think about marketing, marketing also needs insights to be able to target, to have relevant messages, to segment the market, to enrich leads with more information. So you can see how these insights about companies and people really impact the whole revenue cycle, from the beginnings of lead generation all the way to customer and to customer renewal.
I want to thank Umberto Milletti, the founder and CEO of InsideView, for being our guest on the show today. I also want to remind everyone that the button on the top right will enable you to download the great white paper they're offering entitled Intelligent Life, Exploring the Impact of Sales Intelligence on Your Capabilities and Performance. And they did it with marketing profs, and I love marketing profs. Ann Hanley, they do great stuff. So I guarantee this is well worth your time to read in this white paper. I also want to thank our other sponsors on the show. Tried and true, we've got Avatage, content marketing company up in the Boston area, Digital Ethos, nonprofit company, digitalethos.org, Communication Strategy Group does all of our PR work, and Watchitube provides this great platform. So I want to thank you for joining us on the show. We want to thank Umberto for being on the show, and we want to thank InsideView for sponsoring this show. And we will see you every Thursday at noon.